Chronomancer is one of the mesmers elite specialization, and it is a very powerful one that can be used in many different ways. And in this video, we will do a deep dive for the Chronomancer elite specialization. This will build up on the previous video where we did a deep dive on the mesmer class itself. I will leave the link for that video in the comments and in the description, and I will also leave it on your screen now. Before we get started, I have a quick announcement to make. With the help of some friends and guildies, I think I figured out how to get Twitch working properly so that we can start doing some live streaming. I plan to try different times and days at the beginning until we see what will work best for our viewers. And the first live stream we will do will be on Saturday, 11:45 PM GMT. This will be Saturday, 15 minutes before Guild Wars 2 Daily Reset. I will leave all those details in the comments and description. And based on the outcome and how many people will be interested, we may also do streaming a couple of times per week instead of once, and we may even do them at different times each day to suit all our viewers. The first thing we will look at will be your Shatter Skills. And you will notice that they now have different icons. That's also because they function in a different way. Your F1 is now called Split Second, and it works exactly like Mind Drag, but on top of that, it will now do its damage twice. So if I was to use my F1 right now without having any illusion, if you pay attention to the screen, you will see the damage being applied twice. And this second time happened after 1 second delay. And if I was to summon an illusion and also use my F1 again, you will notice that the damage will also happen twice from me and the illusion. After 1 second delay, you saw 2 more shatter numbers. Your F2 Rewinder will work exactly like Cryo Frustration, but on top of that, it will recharge the skill by 3 seconds for each clone you will shatter. If you are not sure how Cryo Frustration works or how anything else about the mesmer itself works, remember that this video builds up on the previous deep dive on the mesmer video. So if you felt lost, just go check the previous one. But you will notice that when I use this skill now, it will not start the cooldown from 30, it will start from 27. And if I do that while having 3 clones, you will notice that the cooldown will be significantly reduced. As you can see, we are down to about 17 seconds cooldown when it first started. Your F3 is now called Time Sync, and on top of what it previously did, it will also now apply Slow. F4 is now a completely new skill, and it is called Continuum Split. The best way to explain how this skill works is to think of it as a screenshot. When you use that skill, it will take a screenshot of whatever is happening right now, and then it will give you a small window where you can do whatever you want, and after that, it will bring you back to the same state everything was at when you took your screenshot. That window will be 1.5 seconds for each clone you will shatter. To be able to explain it properly, I will give myself as large of a window as possible by summoning all 3 clones. And as we explained, that screenshot will work with everything. Your weapon skills, the cooldown, your health, your position, utility skills, everything. So let's say I want to take my screenshot at the current state of everything. So I will use my Continuum Split, then a couple of skills, and then move, and let's see what happens. As you can see, it brought me back exactly to my original position, and my skills became available again because this is how it was before I used Continuum Split. And this can be a problem if you are using it while using one of your heals because your health is low. And as you can see, I'm now back to full health, but when Continuum Split expired, it brought me back to half health, which is what I was at before I use Continuum Split. So be very careful with how this works with your health. Now let's talk about your unique weapon that you can use when you have the Chronomancer Elite Specialization, and that will be your offhand shield. Your skill 4, Echo of Memory, this will block attacks for 1.5 seconds, and when we say block attacks, we mean everything. We are not just talking projectiles. It will summon a phantasm, which will hit your target and apply slow, and it will also apply protection around it. So if I use it now, here is the block, and then it summons a phantasm that went and attacked the golem, and it applied slow. And you can also use the skill while moving. Now keep in mind that the protection happens around your phantasm in a radius of 240, not around you. So if I summon my phantasm from afar, as you can see, I will get no protection because I'm nowhere close to my illusion. But if I do the same thing while this time being a little closer, so you will only get the protection if you were within 240 radius of your phantasm when it attacks its target. This skill is what I call a two-use skill, and you will notice that there is another version of it called Deja Vu, which will work exactly the same way. There is absolutely no difference. But you will only get access to this second skill if you actually blocked an attack. But I will now use it to block an attack, and you will notice two things. There will be an effect on your bar called Time Echo, which will last for 10 seconds. And during this time, you will be able to use that second skill, Deja Vu. But if your skill did not block any attacks, or those 10 seconds expired before you can use Deja Vu, then it will also go on cooldown before you can use it. I will now use it to block an attack, and you will notice when it's done channeling, I now have this time echo effect, and as long as I have it, I can use Deja Vu again. Shield 5, Tides of Time, will do multiple things. First of all, it will do some damage, it will also stun your enemy, and any allies that this skill will pass by, they will get quickness on its way out and alacrity on its way back in. I will now use it on those friendly NPCs, and you will notice it's giving buffs as it goes out and as it comes back in. It's giving quickness, and then as it's coming back, it's giving alacrity. Let's see it together one more time. It will give quickness as it passes out for the first time, and then alacrity as it's coming back in towards me. Here is the quickness as it goes out, and as it comes back to me, it gives them alacrity. And because Tides of Time will stun, it can be very good to be used with Breaking Bar. And as you can see, the stun effects happen as it goes out and as it comes back to you again. There are two more things you should know about the skill. The way you target it is a little bit tricky, and it can be a problem for some. You will also notice that the skill itself have a 40 seconds cooldown. However, if you manage to be in a position where this skill is going to come back to you, then it will reduce the recharge by 10 seconds. So let's see the difference. I will now use it, and I will let the skill come back to me again. Pay attention to the cooldown. It got reduced by an extra 10 seconds. But if I now use it, and my character was not at the end position for whatever reason, then I will not get the extra cooldown. And I will also not get the extra alacrity as it comes back to me. And you should also know that this skill will kind of track your character. So if I use it from this side and then change positions, it will try to come back to me. Chronomancer will give you access to a new type of utility skills called wills. All of them work in a very similar way. They will do an effect when you first drop the will, and then it will pulse for 3 seconds, and at the final pulse it will do another effect. Your healing skill, Will of Eternity, it will do an initial heal, which will only apply to you, and it will also remove a condition, and after it expires, it will do a big heal for you and allies. Will of Recognition will apply 1 stack of stability when you first use this will, and this will happen only to you, and it will also stun break, and then it will keep pulsing ages every second, and this will happen to you and allies. So pay attention to my own bar and to the illusion, and you will see with the first pulse I got 1 stack of stability, and then it's keep giving ages with every pulse to me and to the illusion, which counts as an ally. Will of Calamity will do a small damage that will keep pulsing every second, and it will also do cripple and weakness with every pulse. And then at the final pulse, it will do a big damage. Here is the weakness and cripple and the small damage from every pulse, and then when it finally expired, it did much bigger damage. Remember that the small numbers you see on your screen are intentional because I have no gear on purpose. And that's because the focus of the video is to see how everything works, not to look at numbers. Will of Recall will do small damage and chill with every pulse, and when it expires, it will give alacrity to you and allies. Here is the chill and damage with every pulse, and when it expires, it gives us alacrity and also to our allies. Will of Action will do small damage and slow with every pulse, and when it expires, it will give us and allies quickness. Slow is one of the conditions that help with break bar, and so you will notice that when we use the will on the golem with the break bar, it will do some damage to it. Here is the pulse with the slow, which is eating from the break bar, and then we got quickness, and so did our allies when the will expired. Gravity Will is one of the most powerful skills in game in terms of how it works and the amount of CC it provides. With every pulse, it will do small damage, but more important, it will do knockdown, pull, and float, and whoever will still be inside the range of the will when it expires will also take a lot of damage. And of course, this will be very strong in breaking bar. Before we move to the next part, don't forget to subscribe and enable the notifications to see more guides like this one and know when they are posted. We still have the deep dive Mirage video to come, and of course much more content in the future. And if you missed my Twitch announcement, you can go back to the beginning of the video and you can check the details in the comments and description. Now we will talk about traits. And again, remember that we have a video guide where we do a deep dive on the mesmer as a class, and we cover all the other trait lines and all the other utility skills and weapon skills and everything. The first minor trait, this simply refers to the Chronomancer as a class itself. It just tells you what other benefits you get when you have Chronomancer. And we already covered those stuff. Delayed reaction will apply slow anytime you disable an enemy, and this can only happen every 3 seconds per enemy. So if we use time sync as an example, since it will daze, you will notice it will apply slow as well. The second adapt trait, time catches up, will give your illusions super speed when you use a shatter skill, and it will also increase the damage to enemies that are movement impaired, and those are ones that are crippled, chilled, immobilized, or stunned. And this increased damage applies to the Shatter Skills. The last adapt trait, All is Well that ends well, will make all your will skills heal with the last pulse, and this heal will apply to you and allies in a radius within the will. The next minor trait, Flow of Time, this will make all your shatter skills apply alacrity by default, and this will give you about 1 second of alacrity per clone you will shatter. So the more you shatter, the more alacrity you get. So for example, if I use it just right now, I have about 1 second of alacrity, but if I use it with 3 clones now, I will get much longer alacrity. The first master trait, Danger Time, this will increase your critical chance by 15% and your critical damage by 10% against any enemies who have slow. And this increase in critical chance and critical damage will also apply to your illusions. The second master, Illusionary Reversion, will make you summon a clone if you use any of your Shatter skills while you have 3 clones out. So if I have 2 clones right now and then I use my Shatter skill, nothing will happen. But if I use a Shatter skill while having 3 clones, you will notice that it instantly summoned another clone in place. The last master improved alacrity. This will reduce the duration of any alacrity applied to you by 33%, but at the same time, it will make them 50% stronger or 50% more effective. Overall, having this trait will make alacrity work better for you as a chrono. Keep in mind that reduced duration only applies to you, not allies. So if I was to use my Will of Recall right now, which will apply alacrity when it expires, you will notice that my own alacrity will expire before it does on my illusion, which counts as an ally. The next trait, Time Marches On. This will increase your speed by 25%, and whenever you have any cripple or chilled or immobilized gets applied to you, it will have its duration reduced by 25%. The first Grandmaster, Lost Time, will give you 3 seconds of alacrity anytime you apply slow, and this have a 3-second cooldown. So for example, if I was to use my Shield 4, which its Phantasm will apply slow, you will notice that I will get alacrity. Here is the alacrity because we applied slow. Seize the Moment will give you and allies within a 240 radius quickness for every clone you will shatter. So if I was to use it right now, I will get quickness. And if I was to use any of my Shatter skills while having 3 clones out, of course it will give me and them much longer quickness. Before we can talk about Chrono Phantasma, which is the last Grandmaster trait, let's talk about Phantasms first and remind ourselves how they work. Remember, when I summon a Phantasm, it will do its special attack and then it will destroy itself, becomes a clone, and then just keeps auto-attacking. But when I have Chrono Phantasma equipped, then any of my Phantasms will do their effect twice before they are turned into a clone. So this time I will use it with a different skill to make it very clear how it works. Let's use Phantasmal Warden. And as you noticed, here is a Phantasm doing its own thing, and you will see that when it expires, it summoned the same exact Phantasm that will do the same exact effect again before it destroys itself and becomes a clone. Now it becomes a clone because it already did its effect twice. That second Phantasm that will be summoned will do 100% of its original damage if you are in PvE. But if you use this trait in PvP or World vs. World, then the second time your Phantasm will be summoned, it will do 50% of its original damage. There will also be a daze on that second Phantasm that will be summoned by about 1.5 seconds, which means that it will have a delay. As I said, we will still do a deep dive on the Mirage as an elite specialization. So don't forget to subscribe and enable the notifications to know when this will be released, and of course much more to come in the future. I will also leave the entire Mesmer playlist down in the comments and description, so that in the future you can go to the playlist and check all the deep dives for the class anytime you want. This will also include some Mesmer builds that we will do in the near future. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.